All right, we're going to talk about banking and interest and as it relates to the current economic and banking crisis. There's been a long history of banking crises in America. As long as there have been banks, not just in America but across the world, there have been crises. The following link is linked to the lists in American history, a list of banking crises throughout history. Now, the only pattern here, when we look at this list, is that banking failures and recessions happen periodically and regularly. And they're triggered by various reasons, usually linked to human greed, over-speculation, and war, and as some suggest, maybe sunspot activity. But let's talk about something much more fundamental. Now, this graph plots a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage on a home, and it tracks the relationship between the interest payments paid versus the principal earned and equity earned on your mortgage. And so the red line over the 340, 360 months or however many months in the 30-year fixed rate mortgage, how much let's say that you, and for those of you who've never borrowed money to buy a home before, let's say you borrow $100,000 and your monthly payment is $1,000. So every month you pay $1,000. Well, you think that's it's much better than the situation of paying rent. It's only slightly better, because what you don't realize is that the bank will give you an amortization schedule, which means that it's not like 50% goes to pay the bank, or if your mortgage is 4%, it's not that 96% goes to pay the principal on your loan and 4% goes to the bank. That's not how it works. The bank gets all of their money up front, and so it actually turns out that over 80% of that $1,000, over $800, is just going to the bank, and only $200 is going to pay down the principal and constitutes equity in that house. And it's nearly 20 years, okay, if you look at the green arrow on the graph, before you reach the threshold where more money that you're paying monthly is going to pay principal than interest. It's 20 years. That's a whole generation. You don't really start paying down your mortgage if you're paying minimum payments until between 20 and 30 years. That's when you really start paying down your mortgage, the principal on it, and earning equity. And so in this situation, the result is that for you to earn or gain any equity on your house, which is the principal investment in America for the American family, the only way to gain equity on your house is for the price of the house to go up. And so we've seen that kind of led to the current financial crisis, is that we got to the point where the rising generation just can't afford it anymore. And if you look back in 1940s, only 20% of household income went to pay the mortgage. But today, over 50%, sometimes even 60 and 70% of household income goes to pay the mortgage. So that leaves very little money left over to pay for kids' education, to buy, grow the economy, to save for retirement, and so here, and this kind of system where you're not going to earn appreciable equity unless the price of the house goes up, drove inflation and drove the price of homes up and up and up and up. Until it was just, the rising generation just can't afford it anymore, and so we've had a huge, a modest market correction. But this has a negative, in addition to having a negative effect on the economy, this has had a negative effect on families, because what not telling you is that not only is more than 50% of household income is going to pay the mortgage, but both mom and dad are working. Whereas in 1940 only one member of the family is working, now we've got both parents working, and that affects negatively the family because spouses and children aren't getting their emotional needs met at home. If you don't get your emotional needs met, you've got stressors in life, and you need family relationships to be able to cope with those stresses that people are increasingly turning to harmful behaviors and to drown out and escape from their stress, like substance abuse, pornography, which leads to divorce, to overeating, obesity, emotional eating, and emotional spending and shopping, and many more destructive vices. And so this kind of system that we're in very negatively affects the family. And the other thing is that this blue line on the bottom also represents, if you were to save money, what you could expect in reward for saving your money with the bank. Because you really don't earn appreciable interest, and again, until after about 20 years. And the bank's not going to give you 15%. You start out 8 or less percent interest. So there's very little. There's even this graph is more telling. There's even less incentive to save in this country, and people don't save. And this creates kind of a inequality in our society and class. And so most of us live on the left-hand side of this graph, where we're paying interest and paying 80% interest and only earning a very small percent in gaining equity and saving. And whereas a select minority who have been fortunate enough through hard work and innovation and good fortune and all those things, or inheritance, have live on the right side of the graph and doing just they're earning the interest and not paying the interest. So one makes you think whether this is the right way to do it. This is totally not biblical. This is not how usury was done in the Bible. And so this is a kind of a tradition handed down from Europe, and one wonders whether there isn't a better way to do it than this way. Maybe there's a more equitable system. I don't know what it is, but maybe there's a more equitable way. And one wonders to think when we're kind of being driven to a world banking system run, that's going to kind of lock us into this system, whether that's such a good idea. But there is a way to escape this, and that's living within your means and being in a system where you're not making minimum payments and that you can actually make extra payments. And a lot of loans that if you make a second payment on your house monthly, that second payment actually will go 100% to pay down the principal. And so you want to make those principal payments, and not only do you shorten the time that you pay off your loan from 30 down to 20 or 15 years, but you also earn equity faster. And so that's the best way to deal with it. Unfortunately, most of us live month to month, and it's very difficult to do that. But if you can do that, it's a very wise thing to do. But the Lord recognizes that we live in this kind of system. In Doctrine and Covenants 1935, he tells Joseph Smith and those with him to pay the debt that thou hast contracted with the printer. Release thyself from bondage. And so we see that this is why the Bible talks about grinding the faces of the poor, and that interest is bondage. And President Hinckley, President Gordon B. Hinckley, the late previous president prophet of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, in October conference in 1998, predicted, he says, the time has come to get our houses in order. So many of our people are living on the very edge of their incomes. In fact, they are living on borrowings. And there's a portent of stormy weather ahead to which we better give heed. We are carrying a message of self-reliance throughout the church. Self-reliance cannot obtain when there is serious debt hanging over a household. Pay off debt as quickly as you can and free yourselves from bondage. I think if we'd have done that back 10 years ago, we'd be in a better situation today.